Welcome to the NorthOps Fire Weather Webcast for Saturday, August 9th, 2025. The most recent water vapor loop from GOES 18 shows pronounced ridging centered offshore, while another disturbance drops down the backside of it over the northern Rockies. Notice the orange and red shading, which represents strong mid-level dry intrusion or a very dry air mass. Visible imagery this morning reveals some thinner cirrus moving over the northern tier, while a very weak marine stratus presence is found across portions of the Bay Area. Expect another day of abundant solar radiation reaching the fuels. Mainly ridging influences expected through most of Tuesday, before weakening and giving way to Pacific trough impacts Wednesday through Friday. There have been some timing differences in the strengthening of the trough next week, but recent modeling seems to have settled in on Wednesday through Friday for the main impacts. But the strength of those impacts is still a bit in question, with the GFS model showing a stronger influence versus some of the other models. Either way, high temperatures will be unseasonably hot today through Tuesday, most areas with a muted marine influence. Sunday and Monday look to be the warmest days, with the strongest anomalies found across the northwest half of the area. Cooling likely by the latter half of next week, with some mixed anomalies possible depending on the strength of the trough. It's a pretty dry forecast for the next 7 days, although some modeling suggests moderate cumulus buildups across the east starting Monday afternoon, but the air mass is likely to be too stable aloft to allow any lightning strikes. The strongest signal of the next 7 days appears to be Tuesday, favoring the Far East, as both the Euro and GFS models suggest on this slide. These cells would be moisture-starved and very limited spatially. If any storms do form, strike counts are expected to be minimal. The split flow wind pattern will continue with some localized north-northeast breezes across portions of the north, while more of an onshore influence across large portions of the coastal range, Bay Area, and Lake Tahoe. Terrain-driven flows will be dominant across the landscape during the afternoon. The big story will be the bone-dry humidity readings across most of the interior, with single digits, teens, and 20s being widespread during the afternoon. Humidity recoveries tonight will be poor to moderate across most of the area. These forecast images are valid at 1700 today. Groundhog's Day in terms of very little changes expected for Sunday compared to today, with just a slight uptick in onshore afternoon breeziness across the greater Bay Area. Otherwise, lots of terrain-driven flows. Expect localized breezy north-northeast winds across the northern coastal range ridges and within the Sacramento Valley during the morning. Humidity will remain quite low both day and night across most of the area. These forecast images are valid at 1700 Sunday. With the thermal trough strengthening across the interior, look for a gradual increase in the onshore flow across large portions of the coastal range and Bay Area Monday afternoon and evening. Otherwise, a lighter wind flow elsewhere. Humidity will remain quite low both day and night, with only a slight edge up in values nearest to the coast. These forecast images are valid at 1700 Monday. The onshore wind flow should strengthen a bit more on Tuesday, pretty much area-wide, but favoring the coastal range, Bay Area, Modoc Plateau, and along and east of the crest. Humidity will remain low, especially across the interior, away from the immediate coastal influences. These forecast images are valid at 1700 Tuesday. Peak wind speeds are likely to be Wednesday at this time, with some gustier onshore winds based on last night's run of the GFS. Other models show a bit weaker wind patterns, so we'll be monitoring for any changes. The air mass should start to modify from west to east, but humidity readings should remain fairly low across the interior, and how low will be dependent on the strength of the onshore flow and trough. Additional onshore breeziness will be possible Thursday and Friday, with fairly low interior humidity readings continuing. These forecast images are valid for Wednesday. The 7-day significant fire potential product shows a mix of risk, but tilted towards increased risk, especially in the moderate depicted areas. The unusually warm and dry air mass plus abundant sun will lead to a high probability of ignition across the landscape as the dead fuels noticeably dry and become more flammable. Burn periods will also become longer. Based on the occurring live fuel component, slope and fuel-driven large fire activity will become more probable across the low and mid elevations, as was observed with the Tiger Fire yesterday southwest of Lake Tahoe. The highest fire danger appears to be Tuesday and Wednesday, when burn index values perk up a little bit more across the region. In summary, some notable fire weather ingredients are in play for the next 3 to 4 days, with heat wave conditions impacting a fair share of the area, including strong thermal belts, an unusually dry air mass, plus muted marine layer leading to longer burn periods. Lightning chances look to be minimal, but some activity will be possible across the Far East on Tuesday. The strongest wind flow scenario is likely Tuesday onward, centered on Wednesday, with humidity readings remaining low across the interior as some slight moderation begins from west to east. ERC values for Fuel Model Y briefly reach or exceed the 97th percentile for a few PSAs during the forecast period.